years.
We know that all orbits conform to Kepler's laws. They move in great ellipses rather than circles. And that means the bodies speed up when the two masses get closer to each other, when the gravitation is stronger, and then they slow down when they get farther away from each other. So if precession is the observable of a solar system in motion around another star, it too would have to obey Kepler's laws and speed up and slow down. Now we have really, really good scientific data for the last 100 years, going back to at least the great Simon Newcomb, the #1 astronomer in the US, year 1900. And he kept precise records of precession and noticed that it's speeding up every year, exponentially. So he actually added something called a constant to the precession equation. Newcomb's constant, we call it nowadays. And even since then, the precession rate has sped up above the constant rate. But we've taken the Vedic view that it's caused by an orbit. That orbit is 24,000 years, and therefore, if precession actually measures 26, we must be in the slow part of the orbit, far from the other star right now. And so we plotted on a curve what should the precession rate be over this last 100 years. And we came out with the exact curve that we see historically. And from that, we're able to predict that the precession rate will continue to accelerate year after year after year until we reach a periapsis.
Periapsis is the point in their elliptical orbit where our Sun and its twin are closest together, marking a golden age here on Earth. For now, however, Crottenden's theory remains a controversial attempt to explain the universal ancient beliefs and cycles of time being dictated by our progression through the signs of the zodiac that comprise the precession of the equinoxes.
Regardless of what causes the process, the fact is that the process occurs. And it is just possible to become aware of it in 1 or 2 human lifetimes. But it seems that passed down to us from deep antiquity, and the Maya were one of the vehicles or channels to pass this knowledge down, was a knowledge of precession of the equinoxes and a very accurate knowledge of the rate at which it unfolds. I would say a knowledge of a scientific level of accuracy, and that this is encoded and expressed in ancient myths all around the world, and is specifically encoded and expressed in the Mayan calendar. So, if there was a golden age in the past, then the ancient system of ideas would suggest that a full cycle of precession, a full cycle of almost 26,000 years, would bring us back to that golden age again. And they always saw a correspondence between sky and ground, so that what happens on Earth is connected to what happens in the heavens. And yes, what goes around comes around, and we are going through a great cycle of time, and we find ourselves placed in a particular position on that cycle of time, which in the Mayan system is very near the end of a whole age of the world and the beginning of the next.
I think what's interesting is this 26,000-year period can get neatly broken down into periods about 2,000 years long, in fact, make it 2,200 to be exact, which mark the passage of the vernal equinox, place of the sun in the vernal equinox, through successive constellations of the zodiac. 2,200 times 12 is about equal to the cycle of precession. And this has led many, many people to assume, with little evidence, that world ages, which are a Judeo-Christian phenomenon, connote divisions of the cycle of the precession of the equinoxes. So we all have heard of the age of Aquarius. Of course, that doesn't happen until 2700 AD. Be that as it may, the sun is about to enter Aquarius in some hundreds of years. And according to the Judeo-Christian myth, this is a world-changing phenomenon. So one could say that the ages of man are star-fixed, according to this philosophy. That's the connection, if it be one, between precession and cycles of renovation.
The modern astronomical understanding of precession is pretty straightforward. You know, it's kind of a mechanical understanding of how it works and how it affects the position of the sun on the equinox or the solstice. It shifts through the zodiac signs and so on. I think that it's kind of a literal way to interpret what precession is, but there's also a metaphorical or a symbolic understanding that gets more into how human beings are affected, perhaps, how the planet is affected by the precessional changes. We might envision that over this great 26,000 year period, there's seasons, in the same way that the year cycle has seasons. So there's, you know, summer, fall, winter, spring. And I think this is kind of an insight into this larger cycle and how it actually does affect Earth phenomenon, including life on Earth.
Cultures all around the world believed that this great year, this cycle, this one eon was broken into seasons, just like our yearly motion. You know, we have spring, summer, fall, and winter. Well, they broke it into the easiest ones to understand are the Greek terms, the Iron, Bronze, Silver, and Golden Age. That's sort of equivalent to summer in terms of consciousness, and then you go back down again. And each of these ages has different characteristics. And the Vedic teachers would tell us that we're just coming out of the Kali Yuga, very early into the Dwapara Yuga, which is equivalent of iron to bronze. And we're beginning to realize that we're no longer just physical bodies on a hard physical earth, that we are energy, and everything's made of energy. And consciousness keeps growing. We use more and more of our consciousness. We live longer and longer. Things become seemingly transparent to us, not because matter changes, but because we just see the potential and possibility in everything.
If you have a culture that observes the sky, for whatever reason, religious or scientific, they're bound to notice over 2 or 3 generations that the position of the stars change. So the awareness of precession is almost certainly known by all ancient cultures. They saw it. Now, okay, they could work out the cycle. Let's say they could. But did they know how the stars change? Because it's not only their position that change, it's their tilt. So Orion would tilt and then retilt back and tilt. Well, again, it was observable. And they could work out the rate, and they found out it was also 26,000 years. And it appears to me that there came a moment when they thought they understood what they called the cosmic law. And then they followed it with their monuments, their alignments, their temples, their rituals.
In addition to a simple knowledge of precession among the ancients,